Putting on my top hat, tying up my white tie, brushing up my tail.
Welcome to Hatcast,
the podcast about hats.
I'm Charles Berman.
And I'm Carl Bernhardson.
And we're here to talk
about hats.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to hear people talking about hats, this is the premier podcast in the world.
That is actually correct. That is not hyperbole. We are the number one podcast about hats.
The internet's top, most popular hat podcast.
Also the only one.
The one, the only, the greatest hat podcast, Hatcast, a podcast about hats. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you already know, because you read the title, what hat we're going to be discussing overall today. Carl, what kind of hat did you wear today?
Today, I wore my knit cap for the first time because it was cool.
Oh, yeah. I see. The watch cap.
Yes, the watch cap, the knit cap, however you'd like to refer to it. I wore that for the first time this year. Only for a little while, just to my car and out of my car and into work. But it did. It succeeded in keeping my head warm. It is soft. I can fold it. It can be larger or smaller based on what I want. And yeah, it was effective and seasonally appropriate because we're getting to the time of year where it's now 30 degrees or thereabouts when you leave the house for work.
And that's appropriate for a watch collector.
Yes. Well,
to wear a watch cap.
I guess different kinds of watches. One is the thing that you wear on your wrist, and the other is the period of time that you spend, observing something for your job. Usually the military or a ship. But I guess they both come from the same word, which is to watch. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very indisputable.
Now, I know what hat you wore today because I saw you walk into my house. But I
took the hat off as I came into the house, which is an important lesson.
You did. But
for anyone out there listening.
But the listeners do not know what you wore because you're not at their house right now.
No. Well, I mean, it's possible that someone who is listening now is hearing me while I'm in the house with that person.
That is true.
In the future.
Some of our friends do actually listen to our podcast.
And live in houses. Yeah. But long story short, I wore a flat cap.
And a very nice one.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I got comments on it today. I was told because in part of that hat that I was, the original hipster.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
In part, but yes.
That's not a hat at all that I associate with people who are described as hipsters.
Well, I was told that I had been wearing grandpa hats, it was said.
Okay.
Before hipsters wore them.
That's probably true.
Well, I have been wearing flat caps for a long time.
Although, to be honest, at this point, the whole idea of hipster is outdated. That was like a early 2010s thing, and it's 2018 now. So
there are no more hipsters.
Not that there aren't anymore, but what hipsters are have morphed. Hipsters are, by definition, hip and with it. And that changes. And for a while, hip and with it was adopting, the style of your grandparents, ironically. But they don't do that now. They do other things now. They're onto something else that I'm not aware of because I'm not cool enough. And that's okay. And I'll just keep doing what I've always been doing. And the fact that hipsters thought it was cool for a little while around 2010, 2011, when they were wearing flat caps and wearing cardigans, is fine. And they do what they need to do, and I do what keeps me warm and dry.
But you're aware now what was hip and with it at that time.
Yes.
But not what's hip and with it now. What's filled the social role that you say has been vacated by the vanishing hipster.
Right. I mean, I was aware of that because that's when I was in college and surrounded by hip young people, right? And then suddenly they were wearing the same clothes that I was wearing, and I was confused. It's like this was very uncool when I was wearing it in high school. My, boat shoes and khakis. Well, no, they've never really adopted khakis. Khakis have not. They've never risen to the level of cool with the young. But
well, yeah. I don't know. As was pointed out, I've been wearing flat caps since about 2002 or 2003.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's true. So before any of that took off again. No, I'm curious to see. I mean, it'll be nice. Maybe one day we should talk about like what are the hats that are most popular right now with people who are in different demographics. That could be that could be an episode. We should consider that. We'll have to do some research on that.
But let's not do that now. Let's talk about the hat of the day.
Yes, the hat of the day. I have it with me right now. It's a hat that I wear a lot, especially this time of year.
When it starts to get chillier.
Yeah.
There's a bite to the air.
We've had our first snows.
It's become brisk.
Yeah. It is.
Have we?
What's that?
Did we have our first snow?
Okay, not here, but up at my...
The world.
Well, not even... In our very county, we have had snows up on the hills where my grandpa lives. I've been spending time out there, and there has been snow on the ground in the morning a few days already. So,
I see, yeah.
Yes. But yes, we are talking about the red hunting cap.
Even worn in the lowlands by the likes of us.
Yes. I will describe it to you. It is a wool hat.
Red.
Sometimes red plaid, sometimes just red.
Your sample is red plaid.
Yes, with a black check. A lot of them are. That seems to be the most popular style of red hunting cap.
That's the kind that I see the most.
Yes, and it's made of wool. It's typically lined. In this case, with some kind of nylon quilting,
of some kind, yeah.
And then it often, but not always, has ear flaps made out of
almost always. Yeah.
I've seen a few. My dad has one, which is one, it's not red, it's like a blue plaid, and two, it does not have the ear flaps.
And you can make them of any color, or really.
Yes.
But the idea of it, I think, is associated with a red hat.
Yes, and that's for a specific reason.
Yeah.
Which is it's meant to make you visible to other hunters for safety reasons when you are hunting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's a more practical version of the deerstalker in that the deerstalker succeeds in that it has ear flaps and a flap in front of your face, or a bill in front of your face to keep the sun and or water off of it. But it also has a safety component as opposed to making you look the same color as a deer, really. Which
right, it is a similar color. Most deer color. This is the one I have. Now this one it does have the slight disadvantage that it would, unlike the deerstalker, let rain drip down your collar.
Right.
But other than that, it would keep your head just about as warm. It would cover your ears and keep them just about as warm. It would make you bright so that other hunters could see you. And for those of you who are not quite picturing it, picture something that is really the shape of a baseball hat.
Right.
With a bill about the length of a baseball hat. It could be shorter or longer. But in a thick, heavy wool material with a sheepskin back and the flaps that can tie around your chin. Or imitation sheepskin, of course.
Right.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I thought of this hat and I said to myself, oh, the Elmer Fudd hat. And I think many people do, and if you search on Google the words Elmer Fudd hat,
this is what you'll get.
You'll see a lot of pictures of this hat. But ladies and gentlemen, the memory cheats.
Really?
Yeah.
Do we have a picture of the one and only Elmer Fudd? Oh my goodness. He's not wearing this hat.
No, he's wearing a very different hat.
I don't even know what it is.
He's wearing a very tall, mostly brown hat that has a bill, and it's red up the sides, and it seems to have a bow at the top.
Oh, no. This is it. This is the same hat. It's just an inverted color scheme. Those things on the sides are the ear flaps up with the string tied. He is wearing this hat. It's just a backwards color scheme. Instead of it being brown or black on the ear flaps and red on the cap, it's red on the ear flaps and brown or black on the cap portion.
Yeah, and it's also a very higher crown.
It's ridiculously tall and too small for him. Yes. But he is a cartoon character.
So sometimes cartoon characters, for those of you who aren't familiar with the phenomenon, are somewhat exaggerated in appearance for
Yes.
humorous effect.
Yeah, and this picture that we're looking at also has Elmer Fudd holding a gun, which is
Seems to be melting in his hands, flopping down.
which also is not what a gun would do.
It would be very difficult to shoot a rabbit or any other sort of game using that particular gun.
Yeah, so I think that we could accurately call this an Elmer Fudd hat. He's just wearing a sort of oddly shapen hunting cap.
Yeah, I think he is, yeah.
The other thing that came to mind was The Catcher in the Rye.
Catcher in the Rye is a book by J.D. Salinger.
Yes.
Which was first printed in 1951. I think it was written earlier. And I looked up the Catcher in the Rye wiki, which is its own wiki.
I would not have guessed that existed, but it does.
Well, this is a book that some people get very, very enthusiastic about. Mark David Chapman, I think, had a copy in his pocket, correct me when I'm wrong, when he killed John Lennon.
That is true.
I don't think this makes J.D. Salinger responsible for the death of John Lennon.
No, in fact, I think that he was deeply disturbed when that happened.
I can only imagine so. He didn't make any public comment, I think, because he was...
At that point...
a recluse.
Yes.
But I think any human being, apart from Mark David Chapman, would be very upset to have something like that happen. If somebody with a thumb drive full of Hatcasts were to commit a murder, that would be awful. Don't do it. No matter how much you like Hatcast. But it says here in the Red Hunting Cap entry in the Catcher in the Rye wiki, it's arguably the most recognizable element of the Catcher in the Rye, worn by Holden Caulfield, who's the main character for most of the story. Holden bought the hat during his short trip to New York with the fencing team for $1 prior to the beginning of the novel. The hat is a deer shooting hat, according to Holden's friend Robert Ackley, with one of those very, very long peaks. And then they quote from the book, "Ackley took another look at my hat. Up home we wear a hat like that to shoot deer in, for Christ's sake," he said. "That's a deer shooting hat." "Like hell it is." I took it off and looked at it. I sort of closed one eye like I was taking aim at it. "This is a people shooting hat," I said. "I shoot people in this hat."
Ah.
Holden wears the hat usually with the peak way around the back because, according to him, he looked good in it that way.
Okay, so he wore it backwards and as sort of an angsty teen.
Yes.
So we're not going to spend too much time on him, but it is one of the earlier literary references to this style of hat.
Well, which maybe the most known literary reference, certainly. Pretty early.
We've had a hard time pinning down the history of this hat. And where...
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to guess, it developed in New England sometime after the baseball cap had come into existence.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, definitely a northeastern United States development. But that means it could be any time between the 1880s and the 1950s.
And I think it developed gradually with all sorts of similar hats.
Right, along with the deerstalker, the baseball cap.
Yeah.
All of these sort of
converge into
country and sport hats mixing together to create something appropriate for the colder parts of fall and the winter.
Yes. It's not... I haven't generally seen it worn backwards, other than Holden Caulfield. Baseball caps I have seen.
Yeah, I didn't even remember that Holden Caulfield wore it backwards in the book. I had always imagined him wearing it frontwards, which even this illustration on this bizarre Catcher in the Rye Wikipedia page has him wearing it frontwards.
Yeah, and smoking a very tilted cigarette.
Yes.
Looking asleep. Don't smoke while sleeping, by the way, as a public service announcement.
That's where the whole idea of spontaneous combustion came from.
Yes.
It was mostly elderly women smoking in bed. Don't do that.
No matter your age.
Yes, no matter who you are, it's just a bad idea.
Yeah. I think this particular hat actually would look pretty bad backwards.
Actually, let's find out. Well, yeah, it has a... Let's...
Oh, yeah, that doesn't look very good.
No, and if I put the flap up, it looks kind of... I guess backwards it's like...
a little bit like a Sherpa of some kind, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It has a... It's like a bad Ushanka.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. And then it also says Holden first wears the hat after getting back to his dorm room to sit back and read Out of Africa. When you're sitting back to read, I think the only kind of hat to sit back and read in your own room is perhaps a smoking cap or velvet cap of some kind. Or maybe a nightcap if you're reading prior to going to bed. Don't wear an outdoor hunting cap to read, unless you want to. It's your own room. You're probably the only one there.
Yeah,
it's a little bit odd.
Yeah, I tend to, if I'm reading in my room, or even if I'm reading in my living room, I tend to just wear the hat that I would wear to bed, my nightcap. You know, it's not a... It would be uncomfortable, especially if you're sitting in a chair and you're wearing a hat with a bill backwards. It's going to bump onto the chair behind you or the wall.
Yes.
It's really not practical. I understand why they did it for literary effect. Why J.D. Salinger did it for literary effect. But
Holden looked goofy, but I think probably Salinger meant to make him look a little bit goofy.
I think so.
Although he wouldn't have wanted to seem goofy.
Now, Charles, there was an article that you found that gave a little bit of the history of this hat?
Well, it's not necessarily... It's a piece of history itself, but we can say there was a time when this hat was more celebrated than it is on an average month.
Right. I would say that it's not uncelebrated. I know that plenty of people who work in either very cold workshops or outdoors wear a hat like this.
It's often worn but little celebrated, I think. You don't hear people talk about it very often.
Right.
Outdoor America in 1956 said the red hunting cap, universally accepted as the traditional symbol of hunting safety. So it had been around for a while, at least in 1956, more than 5 years. This month was adopted as the theme for the new National Red Cap Month promotion of the Isaac Walton League of America.
Now, what's that?
Well, I found another article here. This is from 2012 from the Isaac Walton League itself. And they looked back at Red Cap Month.
Okay.
They said that in 1954, 13 hunters were killed and 37 seriously injured in Oregon due to mishandling of firearms.
That's a substantial number of people.
Very bad. The League's Portland chapter launched a program called Red Hat Day, named after the safety apparel worn by some hunters, to encourage safe hunting. This program quickly grew into a statewide initiative sponsored by the governor and 25 other organizations. Hunters were urged to wear a red hat to show their commitment to living by the red hat rules. Respect the property and rights of others, obey game laws, and be careful with fire and firearms.
So it seems like the red hunting cap in particular.
This is a safety feature of the hat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And nowadays you'll see hunters wearing an orange vest or an orange hat. Sometimes you'll see this exact style of hat in a bright orange.
Also bright, yeah.
And I think the bright orange has superseded the red as the main safety feature.
It's even brighter than the red, but I don't think that color of fluorescent orange was quite as available I imagine in the 40s and 50s when this was first catching on. It wasn't this color just for style; it was a safety feature.
Yes, in the same way that the more modern versions that are available are a fluorescent orange, which we can make now with modern chemistry.
And some people wear it for recreational or style purpose.
Right.
More than 75,000 pledge cards were distributed in the first year of the Oregon program. At the League's 1956 National Convention, delegates adopted a resolution recommending the Red Hat program as a national initiative. League leaders and staff went to work on the mechanics required to translate the state program into a national effort. The League's executive board designated September 1957 as the first National Red Cap Month.
Huh.
The principal aim of Red Cap Month will be to call attention to the hunting code of the Isaac Walton League, to foster safety in the use of firearms, to promote respect for the rights of property owners by hunters, to call attention to the legal and moral law of conservation, and to prevent range and forest fires, reported the May-June 1957 issue of Outdoor America. The League later added to that list the need to help perpetuate hunting as a national sport for ourselves and future generations.
So this really is a hat that was popularized out of an entire outdoors activity movement, really.
Yes. It says here, the League provided chapters and divisions with promotional materials, including sample proclamations, window stickers, posters, and pledge cards. And then, somewhat disappointingly, in 1958, the League modified the program to more directly address hunter-landowner relations. The name was changed to Hunt America Time, or HAT.
Wonderful.
Still quite nice, isn't it? It's called
HAT. Hunt America Time.
Yes.
I do like that. Huh.
Yeah, the Uniontown Evening Standard from 21st of September 1957 announced it. A landowner who has had his crops trampled by hunters, his livestock shot, his fences damaged, or his field set afire has seen red. This year, he will see plenty more red, but for a different reason. September is Red Cap Month throughout the nation.
That's pretty clever.
Yes.
No, that's and this originated in Oregon and not New England, as I had initially.
Well, Red Cap Month did,
right?
And Red Cap Day did,
not necessarily the red hunting cap.
Yeah,
right.
How early can we find references to this?
Well, so we've got 1954 so far is the earliest that we've got an article,
and I think now I have an interesting thing here from 1945, Minnesota statutes, which
I assume is a record of laws in Minnesota, right?
Yeah, it seems to indicate that there should be a visible portion of the hunting cap and at least 50% of the jacket, excluding the sleeves, shall be red. So,
and that's 1945.
Yeah, it's requiring it, at least in some areas.
So the red hunting cap at least was in existence in the mid-40s.
Yes. The earliest thing I can see that is probably this kind of hat is from Overland Monthly and the Out West magazine from 1923. The little banker's red hunting cap had scarcely disappeared on the other side of the log when his voice rose in shrill astonishment. "Colonel, Dr. Darrell, come quick! I've found a skeleton! Not one skeleton, but two!"
So that's a sort of... Is this a fiction story?
It looks like it is some kind of... It's by Bret Hart, who was a Western writer.
It's some outdoor Western fiction.
Yes.
But we do have someone referenced wearing a red hunting cap in 1925. So these have been...
1923.
1923. So these were around for a while before they started becoming standard.
And I think it's clear that the redness was a safety feature.
Yes.
Before it was traditional and standard. And I think over 30 years...
It became traditional.
It could become traditional. It wouldn't need to take longer than that.
Right. And honestly, I think that you would find plenty of people hunting wearing the required orange vest, but still the traditional red hunting cap.
I think
even though orange is a substantially brighter color.
Brighter, I think you would still find many people today wearing that hat, and it still would help because it is still a very bright hat.
Right.
And here's another early one, Field and Stream from 1932. We should never have seen him but for the fact that his red hunting cap made a dot of scarlet that literally jumped out at us. Have you noticed people only in the last 10 or 20 years are using literally to as an intensifier?
I haven't noticed that. As someone who reads books and magazines and literature from most of the time that people have been writing them, literally has been literally used as an intensifier for a long time.
Well, it's only these recent writers like Dickens that have been doing it.
No, it's only recently that people have started criticizing the use of...
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
No, that's something that irritates me, and it is a useful way to emphasize something.
Well, I don't know anyone who is so dense as to really have trouble distinguishing when it's being used to say, for instance, you always take things literally, right, versus that red dot literally jumped out at us. I mean, it's
a word that has
clear.
Had two meanings for a long time.
Yes.
And thank you, 1932 Field and Stream, for pointing that out.
Yes. Now, have you worn this? You say you wear this hat quite a lot. Have you worn it for its hunting purpose?
So I don't hunt. I have accompanied other people as they hunt.
I see, but you haven't done the hunting yourself.
No. But so I have not worn this particular hat. I think I wore like an orange knit cap actually when I was with them. I wear this hat when I'm walking or hiking during hunting season.
Yeah, the danger that a hunter is exposed to from other hunters
is also a danger that you're exposed to as a walker or hiker or
accompanier of a hunter.
Right. So you want to be dressed appropriately. Yeah, I know plenty of people who, when they walk their dogs during this season, put on an orange vest or put on a red cap just to make sure that they are obviously a person. Yeah,
and it's hard to criticize that. It's safety, I think, is generally preferable to danger.
I think, in fact, it would be negligent of us to criticize safety procedures.
Certainly, just like those goggles or visors that our friend wrote us about. I wouldn't tell you not to wear that. Yeah.
But no, I typically wear this one when I'm walking, when I'm out and about in the woods, which I often am, when I'm foraging for mushrooms, which I like to do. I wear this hat just to be visible and not accidentally shot or mistaken for some sort of game animal.
I think one of the interesting things about it is that a lot of people wear it not thinking that it has any safety value or use. But
That's true.
Really, that was its original purpose, and
although
it still maintains that purpose.
It has its safety purpose, but it's also an exceptionally practical and warm hat. I wear it all winter long. I wear it when I'm shoveling. I wear it when I'm walking from place to place in the snow. It succeeds in keeping my neck and head and my neck and head warm. And keeping snow out of my eyes when it's coming down. Even if it's coming down very hard, it hits the brim and not my face or my glasses. As anyone who wears glasses knows, rain and snow are not fun because they obscure your vision if you're not wearing a hat. And I think one of the reasons why I appreciate hats as much as I do is because I have to wear them whenever the weather is bad, or else I can't see. It's This is one of the most practical hats for keeping the elements out and maintaining visibility for me.
So I think you're going to give it a high practicality.
Yeah, and I think we're at that part of the episode. So yeah, let's start. Practicality, I'm going to give it a 9.5. I think that for the time of year and part of the world that you're supposed to wear it, this is the most practical hat that you can wear. It keeps you safe if you are in an area where hunting is going on. It keeps you dry because it's wool, and wool does a good job of keeping you warm even when it's wet. Mm-hmm. It has flaps that you can use to regulate the temperature of your body. You can have your neck and ears covered or uncovered. It's lined and quilted, which adds to the warmth. And it has the baseball cap bill, which is very practical in even bright conditions or rainy conditions. Yeah, I think this one actually gets a 9.5 for me for practicality.
I was going to give it the same rating, and the only thing we take away is, well, what are we taking away the 0.5 for? Maybe it doesn't have the back bill of the deerstalker, but that's really a comparison. Style, I think I'll give it a 6 because it's not a bad looking hat, really. But it's just, it might make you seem a bit rustic in certain scenarios.
Oh, yeah, you couldn't wear this I wouldn't wear it to a gala or a dinner party. It's, you wouldn't wear it with a jacket and tie. It's definitely rustic outdoors wear. But if you are wearing a canvas jacket and jeans and boots, this is the perfect hat to go with that, right? It has a very specific style. You can look very stylish in this hat. So I'm going to give it a 7 on style because it is not universally stylish, but when it is appropriate, it is exactly the hat you want to wear for your outfit.
So the red hunting cap overall gets an 8 even.
Well, that's good.
That's very neat.
Yeah. Good math.
Yeah. Well, so if you have any comments about this hat or any other hats, all you have to do is email us the comments. send them to Hatcast at yandex.com. That's HATCAST at Yandex, YANDEX.com.
Oh, wait. Did we get correspondence this week?
No.
Oh. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit.
Kill the wabbit?